Okay, so I was one of few people I would say that I knew who really enjoyed the Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania movie. I thought the movie was done very well. I thought Paul Rudd obviously did a good job acting his heart out in that movie. It was very funny, very personable character. You loved his character. You wanted his character to succeed. And I think that's what they were going for with his character in general playing Ant-Man. I was sad to see that Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania didn't do well because I believe it fell victim to the not so good movies that came before it in the Marvel lineup. Now, I always say this and I will repeat it. I am not a complain channel. So I'm not going to sit here and gripe and complain about, things I don't like. I like talking about things that I like. And I like Ant-Man. I like his character. I like Paul Rudd in that role. I like the way they depicted Ant-Man. And I like the Ant-Man movies. I would not say, oh, they were some standout Marvel movies, but I think they were decent movies that had they come out 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whenever it was that Marvel first started this big MCU run, I think the movies would have done great. But again, they fell victim to the circumstance of the now. And I really think that's what happened with this movie. I wanted to see Ant-Man take a more pivotal role within the Avengers, and I really thought that's the direction they were going in with Kang. And you could see it in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. When you got to the end of that movie, you saw him kind of struggling with, oh man, what is going on? What's going to happen? I think he was struggling with the fact that he really didn't think Kang was dead. And I think he struggled to understand, well, what's going to happen when we're forced to deal with Kang? Because this dude is a menace unlike we've ever seen. And I think those were the wheels that were turning at the end of that movie. And that was the direction Marvel was going in. And I think he was going to be the Iron Man of this new Marvel run. I think he was going to be that pivotal character that everything centered around. And I think you were going to see him come into his own, be the hero that everybody thought he could be. Obviously, he doesn't have the intelligence of Tony Stark, but I think he had some qualities that Tony Stark didn't have. And it seems like Marvel was going to play on those qualities. It's unfortunate what happened with Kang and Jonathan Majors and that whole fallout. Some people said Marvel wanted to go into a different direction anyway, just because Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania didn't do well, and they felt like maybe they couldn't really sell Kang to the audience. But I don't think it was the fact that they couldn't sell Kang to the audience. I think they didn't have I don't know if they had the wiggle room to be patient through a loss. Not many studios can be patient through a loss. But I think had they continued with that Kang storyline, from the original season of Loki to what I saw of Kang and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, Kang was a real menace. I believed him to be an even bigger menace than Thanos, to be honest with you. And I was looking forward to that again. We know how that played out. But it's unfortunate we didn't get to see Ant-Man play that pivotal role he would have played. So let's see what this article says. Comicbookmovie.com. Kevin Feige reveals Ant-Man's surprising new status quo in Avengers Doomsday. In 2015, Marvel Studios released one of its most unique movies with the Paul Rudd-led Ant-Man. The next year, Scott Lang played a pivotal role in Captain America Civil War before finding a superhero partner in 2018's Ant-Man and the Wasp. With Hope Van Dyne among those snapped out of existence by Thanos, it was down to Ant-Man to help save the multiverse in Avengers Endgame. And one thing that was showed in the comic books, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have an ironclad memory like most people, but I believe when Thanos snapped everybody out of existence, they actually went into the microverse, which in the MCU would be this quantum realm. And I really thought they were going to somehow, with the Kang angle, work that into everything that was going on, which kind of got me excited. I was excited to see what direction that would go in. Again, unfortunate the way things played out. Who knows what could have happened. We then had a 4-year wait for the hero's next solo outing, but Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania proved a disappointment. Whether it was the underwhelming exploration of the quantum realm created primarily with the volume or MODOK's botched debut, the threequel wasn't Scott's finest moment. And again, I think this movie fell victim to several things that it would have been a hard thing for any movie to get over. And the backlash that Marvel was getting at this time with the movies they had released that fans were not pleased with, I think they could have dropped anything at this time, and it would have had to be the most perfect movie of all time to not bomb, to be quite honest with you. And this was one of those movies that I don't think should have bombed, and I think it should have gotten way better ratings than it got. I wasn't surprised, but I was surprised that not more people were on the other side as myself who enjoyed the movie. Again, before you go in the comments and say this was the worst movie, I'm not telling you that this was on par with what Marvel did in leading up to Endgame, but I'm telling you this was definitely better at the time than what Marvel was releasing, and it looked like they were snapping out of whatever slump they were in, and this movie was headed back in a good direction, and that's why I really wanted to see it play out. Let's see. However, Ant-Man's encounter with Kang the Conqueror set the stage for the size-changing superhero to play a pivotal role in Avengers: The Kang Dynasty after inadvertently dooming the multiverse. With Kang out and Doctor Doom in, it's unclear whether Avengers Doomsday will touch on Scott's actions and what vanquishing Kang means for reality. And really and truly, again, I think that's where they were going to get into. Maybe they were going to, because in the MCU, it seems like the quantum realm is the microverse, but maybe they were going to do something even beyond that, wherever Kang ended up, and somehow he comes back and, work him into the big bad. Again, I was looking forward to that. Rudd is the subject of a new profile for The Hollywood Reporter, and Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige teased Ant-Man's role in the movie when he said that the actor plays, quote, more of an elder statesman now dealing with the other newer characters. In a surprising new status quo for Scott, and implies that he could serve as a mentor to a certain team of young heroes his daughter assembles, the Champions. Now, I would have loved to see him play a role similar to Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man in Tony Stark mentoring Spider-Man. And again, it seems like it was for me, it was the perfect setup. You killed Tony Stark, which you can argue shouldn't have been done. I would make the argument that if I was Feige, if I was head of Marvel, if I was the Russo brothers at that time, I would have maybe done something to be tragic, but maybe not kill Tony Stark. That way you could easily transition from Tony Stark to someone else in a smoother way without him being absent. That's just me personally. Talking more generally about about why Marvel Studios wanted Rudd to play Ant-Man, Feige said, quote, "We needed this guy to be a criminal, but also someone that you're rooting for no matter what. And that's Paul. He's also funny and good looking and unbelievably charismatic." I have to agree. I think Paul Rudd, his charisma was on par with Robert Downey Jr., but not in the same way. Robert Downey Jr. has a suave charisma about him. And Paul Rudd has a somewhat suave, confident goofiness that is charismatic, and you loved it. For me, it made me love his character. Rudd said that, quote, The Edgar Wright angle initially drew him to Ant-Man, and while the filmmaker eventually dropped out, the thought I had was, if this can be a thing that really works and people see it, maybe it will help me get some interesting smaller things financed, and I can have a little more control over what comes after it. Yeah, that's a good strategy, a good strategy. Again, just several things worked against him that was kind of out of his control. He's done that, of course, but admits that not all of them were winners. Asked about Ghostbusters, Rudd simply said, life is sometimes just collecting experiences." Before elaborating on his regrets in general, I think Tina Fey said it best when she was like, sometimes you do something and you thought the script was great and it really works, and then you're watching it and all of a sudden the credits come up and you go, wow, that one shrunk in the wash. Never heard it put that way. That one shrunk in the wash is a good way to put it. He said with a shrug, I've been in several things that have shrunk in the wash. I guess for an actor, you're acting in these movies, you're playing these roles, you're acting out these scenes, but on the cutting floor, everything gets put together in a way you haven't yet seen. So it might seem big and grand and great and something everyone wants to watch. Then you get in to watch the movie after it's, all of the editing and all of that is done, and you think to yourself, wow, yeah, this is not what I thought it was gonna be. This is definitely not the movie I thought it was. I could definitely see that happening. In Avengers Doomsday, beloved heroes from 3 distinct universes will be set on a deadly collision course and face an existential threat unlike anything they've encountered before. Avengers Doomsday is set to be released on December 18th, and I am looking forward to Avengers Doomsday. I'm not convinced it's going to be on par with what we've seen from Marvel before, but I am somewhat convinced that this is going to be a clear pointing, a clear heading in the right direction. And from everything I've seen overall, I think this movie is going to be well. Now, this is where Marvel is in a tricky position. Will people return and be honest if they enjoyed the movie? The reason I say this is we all know how biases work. Sometimes if you're slighted, no matter what's done after that, you're just not feeling it. And I've said this before, Marvel has lost a lot of fan capital. Me personally, I'm willing to give a little. I'm willing to say, okay, it looks like you're headed in a better direction. It looks like the storyline is actually good, and it looks like somebody's paying attention to the comic books. So I'll give this an honest try, not going in wanting to hate it. And I'm not saying that's what people have done with previous movies, but look, we're human. You're slighted, and fans have definitely been slighted by Marvel. It's easy for you to go into a movie thinking, I'm just not going to like this. And no matter what happens, you just don't like it. I hope this movie doesn't suffer from that. It's possible. But I think everybody's on not the edge of their seats, but everybody is waiting to see what Marvel does. I will say this. If Avengers Doomsday, in a more real way than not, is really going to determine the success of Marvel movies going forward.